Hi, I'm Alvina Ling,
And I'm Grace Lynn.
and we're book friends.
Forever!
We're childhood friends,
Who grew up to be
a children's book editor.
and an author and illustrator. Yay!
Welcome to Book Friends Forever. This is the Chop Suey, Ages in Young Adult, Pen Names, and Last Meals episode. As a reminder, once a month, we have an odds and ends episode where we cover several topics.
And check out our Instagram handle at bookfriendsforever_podcast. Alvina, how have you been?
I've been good. I had my belated birthday party on Saturday, and it was really fun. I think I think I talked about how it's just hit or miss in the summer, having a summer birthday of who's around and who's not, and so I always cast a really wide net. And this time, I feel like more people than have ever before showed up. Which is really fun from just different parts of my life and some people I haven't seen in a couple years. Like some I saw 2 years ago at my birthday party. Like they missed last year, but they came 2 years ago. And so it was really great. We grilled. Stephen and my friend Donna and Danielle were in town from Barcelona, and so they grilled. And although we've decided next year we're just gonna order food or do a potluck because grilling in the middle of a the party is takes away, I think, and then whoever is like working, it's just not as fun for them. So I think we'll
It's an
make it more
interesting thing
relaxed.
because I feel like when me and Alex throw parties, we like to be working because it gives us an excuse not to have to interact too much. Like we can interact enough, but be like, once we feel a little awkward, be like, oh, we're gonna go get drinks. Like that's why we
No,
like to have all that stuff. But you guys are
I
much more
know we
extroverted.
like to talk to people. Yes, and it did end up with karaoke, so that is always fun.
Nice.
And just a bit having maybe it's the theme of community. I have been having a lot of like happy hour drinks and lunches and with people. So, and just also enjoying that it's not as hot. I'm glad that the heat wave broke. I think in New York it broke on Thursday or Friday, so that the day of the barbecue it wasn't so bad. And I've been able to go for runs, and that's always nice.
Yeah, it
Um,
was so hot for like last week, and then all of a sudden it broke. Yeah, it's been cool here. It's been so wonderful to wake up in the morning and to go for a run, and it's like, oh, it's actually a little chilly, and it's like, and it's actually not like running in soup, so I remember waking up and it's like I'm running in 70-degree weather even at like 5 a.m. and I'm like,
yeah.
ugh, it's no fun. But now it's a nice brisk 60, and I'm like, yay!
I
So yeah, I
know.
love the cooler
Is
weather.
summer almost over? I mean, it is almost August.
Oh, don't say that. I'm not ready for that yet.
I know, I'm not ready. But anyway, how have you been?
Good. Doing cool weather runs, which is great, like I said. And just painting away, and that's why I'm not ready for it to be the summer over because I'm not close enough to finishing yet. So I'm hoping there's still at least another month. So we'll see how that goes. So I'm Um, painting away and that's really nice. It's just I'm painting and every once in a while taking a break, going to places, doing little day trips with my family. We went to this place called the Three Sisters Sanctuary
That
around
sounds
here.
familiar.
Yeah, it's this really quirky kind of art sanctuary and it's about 30 minutes away from here. It's really quirky. It's really cool. It's like such a mixture of really amazing art and also really like questionable art. And if but at the same time, even though the art's questionable, I still love it. Like it's like I guess it's questionable in terms of if an art as an art student, if you were to bring it into an art school setting, they'd be like, but actually in this kind of environment, it was just really like charming, like
Hmm.
even things that maybe might not be considered good art in an art school setting. I thought was really, really charming. And it was really nice. Everything is just so tactile and so earnest. I guess that's the word I was thinking of. Um, that was actually a word that I really wanted to talk a lot about during my conversation with John Shu at ALA, but we didn't really get a chance to do it. But like this idea of like just like people just making things because they just want to make it, and like how that there's something really beautiful about it, even if it doesn't turn out in a way that everybody admires. But so that's why it was really nice to go see that kind of art. And then I've been in my other off time, I've been planning the Very Asian book trip with my
Oh,
friend Deb.
yay.
It's going to be super fun. We're going to go in the fall in October. I think right now we are going to go to upstate New York to New York
Oh.
Mills, which is New Hartford, basically like 5 minutes, 10 minutes away from where I grew up.
Hmm.
So I'm thinking that we might even try to do an event there so I can like I don't know who's in town anymore. Like I don't know if
Oh
the
my
the
gosh, that's
people remember
awesome.
me, but it's kind of weird to think about I'm going back to New Hartford. So that's going to be part of the trip
If you go
possibly.
back to New Hartford, drive by my old house and your old
I know. Oh
house
my
and take
gosh, I
photos,
should. Laurelwood Road, right? Like, oh,
or Laurelwood Road.
yes, I will. We will. And I should drive back when I was 58 Janet Terrace. So
Oh,
like
and Ralph Perry Junior High.
I know. Okay, maybe I should make Debbie drive past all like the New Hartford sites.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
So that's something that we're gonna do in the fall. And the other kind of fun thing that I've been planning is that so I think last time we were talking about the mid-year review and how I said I was gonna try to do something to add to my shop. And I realized I don't with this the art I have to do for this book and everything, I don't have time to design a new like cup or mug or a dish towel or anything like that. So I'm going to just do another deluxe box set with high five books. I did this for Chinese menu last year ago or the year before, where it's like the book, autograph book with all
Yeah.
these kind of like special things with it, like the pin and the fortune cookie and all this. So it's going to be another deluxe box, but this one I got these handmade candles that are just so gorgeous. They're like just like the dragon pillar in the book,
Oh my
and
gosh, that's
it's gonna
cool.
have like the pin. I'm gonna make a print, and so we're in the planning stages of that. One of the things I'm thinking about doing because there's only gonna be, I mean, I think we're only gonna plan on like maybe 15 to 30 boxes. So I'm thinking about making like little handmade um dragon origami like ornaments to put into only because I've always kind of wanted to learn how to do that. So I was like, oh, this is a perfect excuse to learn that skill. I'll make these little dragon origamis. So that might be another thing that I'll put in, but we'll see. That's the goal.
How does that work? Like, do you limit how many boxes or
Yeah,
gifts? Yeah.
I just got like I only got like 30 candles. So like
Okay. So you
no
kind of
like
say, well, supplies last,
yeah,
and
while
then,
supplies last,
okay.
like, but I don't know if I'll use all the candles for the boxes because, I like
Yeah.
them.
I
So,
predict you will. That's my
and,
prediction.
and so it's kind of just like, oh, as long as supplies last is like very limited because that's all I've got. So,
Right. That's awesome. All right.
anyway.
So for this first segment of this Chop Suey episode, you had sent me this article. The headline is Young Adult Literature is Not as Young as It Used to Be. And this article is in the Local Voice, thelocalvoice.net.
Mhm.
Local use you can use. Oxford and Ole Miss. Was this going around the internet
I
or?
have no clue. I just think I just saw it online and I just thought it was interesting because there's so many, for a while, there was a article going around of how there was a dearth of middle grade books for like the tweens,
Mhm.
like, and I'm not sure how much traction that got, like there's like where are the books for like the 12 or like it would seem like most of the books were for like the 8-year-olds and there's books for like the 15-year-olds, but there's no books for like the 11-year-olds, so like the real, which is supposed to consider the real middle grade. And I thought that was really interesting because this is saying almost the same thing. Like there's no books for the real young adults, like so
Yes. So this was a University of Mississippi study. So it said, despite its name, the young adult genre is increasingly dominated by stories about older teens and even adults. But as protagonists get older, younger readers are getting left behind, a University of Mississippi study indicates. Um, so, just anecdotally, I can say that yes, I do feel like I've been feeling that in the last 5 to 10 years, our young adult books have skewed older. And how I know that in part is we have two age designations for young adult, either 12 and up or 14 and up. And it's not based on the age of the protagonist. So, if a protagonist is 17, we could still mark it as 12 and up if it doesn't have, for this,
spicy.
yeah, we generally say, cursing, like, maybe if it has one F-bomb, that's okay. But if basically there's a lot of cursing throughout, that would push it up to 14 and up. If there is any kind of sex in it, that goes to 14 and up. If there's drug use or alcohol use, that goes to 14 and up. And then I say if there's extreme violence or, kids killing kids like Hunger Games, I would have said that was 14 and up. I do think Hunger Games probably was categorized as 12 and up, though. I'm not sure because a lot of people were like looking at it for the Newbery, for example. And so, um, so I feel like the majority of our young adult list was pushing to ages 14 and up. And so in the last few years, we have been trying to find more 12 and up books because we have heard that there is a market for this. Um, but I do feel like because the classic lesson or what we learn when we get into publishing is, oh, kids read up. So in both middle grade and young adult, generally I would say in middle grade the characters are almost all 13 or 14, 12 to 14. I mean, well, 14 is a little more rare. Usually the cutoff is 13. So, but I feel like probably if we did a study, we would find that the majority of middle grade protagonists are 12 or 13, and the majority of young adult protagonists are 17 and 18. Which is unfortunate. I remember when I first started working with Justina Chen on her first novel, Nothing But the Truth and a Few White Lies. I think in her first draft, the character was 14 and a freshman, and we decided to age her protagonist up because she sounded young, and for all these reasons that we're talking about. And I do feel like it's a little sad because now, like, I don't know if there are 14-year-olds in young adult literature these days. There probably are 16-year-olds, 15 and 16, but then we have that weird gap. Um,
Yeah, there is a weird gap. And I feel like, I don't know, I'm thinking about how Hazel reads, but she reads mainly manga now on her
mhm.
own. But she also reads like the ones that she was reading like voraciously were like the Warriors books, like the Warriors and like the Tui Sutherland's books, and
Mhm.
those I'm trying to those are pretty violent and pretty violent and stuff, but at the same time they're kind of marketed for like pretty young, like so in
Yeah.
some ways as a 13-year-old it was like kind of young for her, but when you like in terms of like the way it was marketed, but at the same time when you listen to the content, I'm like, no, that's a 13-year-old content. Like people are cutting off their own tongues and stuff, like I'm like that seems old.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I do think what's interesting in this article, though, is that one of the I think librarians says, harkened back to the heyday of young adult novels in the early 2000s, 2010s, when bestsellers such as 11-year-old Harry Potter sat on the shelves alongside Lewis Lowry's 12-year-old protagonist in The Giver. Even Stanley Yelnats, the main character in Holes by Lewis Sacker, is 14. But Holes and Harry Potter were middle grade, not young adult.
Yeah.
And The Giver
But
was kind of on the
yeah.
on the
I think
cusp.
I think that it was I actually think she's talking more about what that article a while back that I was talking about that where we're talking about middle grade. Middle grade has is missing that. It's like either really old or really young. But at the same, like it's kind of interesting, like those classic books like Cricket in Times Square, like where would that fit now? Like I guess that's really young. They would consider that very young, right?
Yeah, I don't know how old the protagonist is in the Cricket in Times Square. That's definitely
It's
middle
a
grade.
cricket. It's a cricket,
It's a
but I
cricket.
guess
So
the
the cricket
boy
is
is,
probably like 2 years old. But then they had that old man, and
yeah.
I haven't read you. I know you read that more recently.
I mean, the boy in there seems like he's about 9 or 10. So,
Yeah.
but or like Charlotte's Web, like,
Right. I think, I guess my takeaway is I'm going to not encourage authors to age up their protagonists anymore. But it
interesting.
really it has to fit with the story. So
Yeah.
go with the story.
I don't know. It's so hard. I mean, these things are so hard to figure out because I feel like these trends, it's like it's hard for any author. By the time where I'll be like, I'm gonna write for that little gap, and by the time I write for that gap, and the book is like it's there's no gap, So like, I guess for authors, it's just like whatever, right? All these things are very interesting to think about, but they really don't have any effect on what we're writing because by the time we get it out there, the trend or whatever the need is
It's
gone.
over. Yeah,
You
that's
know.
true. Anyway, all right. Let's move on to our second topic of this chop suey. Another article. This one is in The Guardian. And this it's more of like a column, and it says it's an opinion piece, and it says a new Irish writer is getting rave reviews, but nobody knows who they are. That gives me hope. It's by an author named Rhiannon Lucy Coslet. So the little subheader says pen names have a long history. Now Liadan Ni Chuen is shunning publicity in an industry that demands even more exposure. So it's basically about this new short story collection by this author whose pen name, I guess, is Lia, and apologies, I'm probably not pronouncing this correctly. Liaden Ni Chuen, and it's called Everyone Still Here. So apparently it's an adult short story collection. It's receiving rave reviews, rapturous praise, and no one knows who this author is. There's nothing, you can't Google this person. There's no social media account. The publisher basically says that she will not be participating in any in-person interviews or public events. Um, so, it talks a little bit about pen names and writing anonymously. And, I think there are a lot of different ways people use pen names. We've talked in the past before about, for example, how some people use pen names if they're writing for young adult versus picture books. Um, but it's rare, I think, for someone to be completely anonymous. They give the example of the Elena Ferrante, who was
Mhm.
completely anonymous. And I think there are a few other examples, but it's rare. And I think this kind of goes to, I think we've talked about social media and the importance of an author promoting their work. So this is an example of an author who is not promoting their work at all.
And they're using their lack of promotion as a marketing tool.
But the publisher is.
Yes,
I
the
mean,
publisher is.
yeah, I think they're just really relying on the reviews and the buzz for
Yeah.
the book itself, which is
And
refreshing.
yeah, I think it's really interesting and it's really great in some ways, but it's also really I don't know. What as an author, it's as an author whose writing is sometimes loved and sometimes not loved, sometimes misunderstood, sometimes not mis sometimes understood. That's putting I feel like it's putting a lot of power in getting your work out there in the hands of very few people. And
Hmm.
if the author is not worried about that, then more power to them. Like I am, you know what? If you feel like that's what you can do, then I think then great. And if I felt more confident, maybe it's my lack of confidence, like maybe if I was more confident, I would go more in that direction, but I feel like I'm not as confident, and I feel like I need to do all these things to help give my book as uh, more, more, more,
Like a push.
more push. Yes, that's a good word. I was trying to think of a word that wasn't disgusting.
Um, I
But as an
wonder,
as
yeah.
a publisher, like how would you feel if author wanted to do that with you or with your company?
I think it would depend on the book, but generally it always comes up. Like, for example, sometimes we have projects that we call IP, that's intellectual property, where we, like an editor, might come up with an idea and we find a writer to write it, and and in that case, I know our group always says, but is the author gonna also be able to promote the book? Because sometimes it's anonymous or work for hire or, behind the
Mhm.
scenes. But I know, of course, our publicity and marketing departments want an author to still be the face of the book. So I think it would be a disadvantage to the book, to not have an author promote the book.
Yeah, when we've talked to the publicity people at Little Brown, it does seem like they are very much in favor of the author promoting the book.
Mhm.
So it's interesting. But then, like I said, I think it's interesting that they're using the author not promoting their book as a way to promote their book. Which means I think you can use that once or twice, but I don't think it can be, I think it's more of a unicorn than
Mhm.
all authors being like, let's do that. Like, let's follow that.
And I think
So
it's probably easier to do for adult on the adult side than children's side. I do think, well, for example, like middle grade, we always say, oh, it's really important to do school visits. And I think teens like to be able to know who the authors are and interact with them online. Um, Whereas on the adult side, maybe because so much of the canon are dead authors that maybe it's not as important for them to be promoting.
So, I did have this interesting conversation with Jeannie Birdsall, who said she's like, she is gonna promote this new book, but she was like, I think I want to be the Greta Garbo of children's books, where it's just like, leave me alone. Like,
Right.
and I was like, you know what? I think it actually works for you because it's kind of like she wrote these books and then and she kind of disappeared. So, and like a little bit like that with Trenton Lee Stewart, with
Right.
the
The
Mysterious
mysterious spinner.
Benedict
Yep.
Society. So
Yeah,
maybe,
he's not online at all. And
yeah,
Kate
so
I mean, Kate McKinnon is very different because she is famous and okay, that's completely wrong because she does a lot of media, but she's not on social media,
yeah.
but she's on television
Yeah,
and
I don't think that works.
no, no, that's a bad example.
But I think Trenton Lee Stewart and Jeannie kind of work for that kind of thing. But it's kind of like your book has to, it's just there's so many books being published and so few that actually can rise to the top without any kind of push, and if you are able to do that without any push, then I'm, like I said, good for you. I'm thrilled for you, but I think it's like that's kind of a little bit like winning the lottery to me. Like you got really, you are probably very, very talented. Your book is very, very awesome, but you also got really, really lucky. And I think that for the rest of us, common folk.
Well, and also, I mean, I didn't look up BookScan sales for the short story collection. Everyone's still here, but I don't know if it's a bestseller or
It's maybe a critical darling kind of thing.
right. And what if it wins an award? I guess the publisher would receive the award
Yeah, I
on
guess
behalf
so.
of,
I mean, it's hard to be to become a critical darling is also very difficult. You have to really get lucky. So, I don't know. I don't
yeah.
know. I mean, I think I'm glad that this author is able to do it. But I would not use it as an example of what to do for everybody else.
No, no, I think it is the extreme exception, and it's
Yeah.
definitely not going to be the norm.
Yeah.
Um, All right. So for our next segment in this Chop Suey episode, we are going to talk about what our last meals would be. And Alison Morris may be stopping in and
Yes,
might
and she could tell
also,
us her last meal too.
yes. But this came up because, so when it was my birthday, I talked about this last week. Oh, and there is Allison.
Yay! Okay, good. She could tell us what she would eat too. Okay. Hi,
Hi.
Allison!
Hi.
Yay!
We actually
You,
just mentioned you, and we
yes,
just
and we're
started
glad.
this last segment, which is our last meals.
What
Okay.
is funny is, Alvina, you said be prepared to hop on and talk about your last meal. And I literally was like, the crappy food I just ate in the car on the way here as
Oh.
I drove back. And I was like, oh, no, 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 no. They must mean like your last meal.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
Yes. So this came up because when it was my birthday, I was trying to think of like, what do I want to eat and what do I
Yeah.
want for dinner? What was my favorite food? And I settled on crab, like a Dungeness crab.
yeah.
But I was debating with like fried chicken and mac and
Mm.
cheese. Um,
Oh,
but
yeah,
I,
those are good choices.
yes. So I think that, yeah, and I think for dessert, it would be, um, it would be, oh, frozen pound cake with strawberry ice cream.
Nice. Does that have
Um,
like nostalgic
yes.
memory
So
for, yeah,
the
great.
frozen pound cake, yeah. So I forgot who I was talking to about like the foods or desserts we loved when we were kids, and I just loved this frozen Sara Lee pound cake, and I'd love it frozen, and I'd eat it frozen because I like that texture. So actually, I froze a bunch of cake from this party we just had, and it's in the freezer, and I'm very excited to
Nice.
eat it gradually over the next
Nice.
year, the next few months. Um, so that
I
is my answer.
I have fond childhood memories of frozen coconut cake we ate at a picnic
Mm.
somewhere that has never left me, like this memory. And I brought it up with my mom. She's like, I have no idea what you're talking about. I was like, we had it like multiple times. You bought it from picnics. She's like, I don't remember this at all. But yeah, so I can relate to that. Though with mine would definitely be a coconut cake. So
Well,
That's
um
Grace,
actually that's mine too. I have coconut cake as mine, but only because I have so many lovely memories since well, it's because of my last birthday when I was 50 and we got the Tom Cruise cake and then we froze the leftover Tom Cruise cake and we've been eating it slowly and then we got another one this birthday. And I just have so many now I associate this coconut cake with like such good
celebration.
memories and celebration. And so like because whenever something good happens, we defrost a slice of cake and we eat it together like with the family. So
nice.
like it's such a happy cake now. Like even like I'm sure there's probably other more delicious cakes out there, though I have to say this one's pretty good. But there's lots of delicious desserts because I love all desserts. But this one has so many happy memories now because of what we do with it.
Well,
So
what
coconut
else
cake
would
all
you
the
eat?
way.
Just coconut cake? What else would you eat for your last
Uh,
meal?
For me, I would do all different kinds of dumplings, right? So not
Oh,
just soup. I love soup
nice.
dumplings, but it'd be the soup dumplings, it'd be the fried dumplings. Do you remember once we went to a restaurant with a
Oh,
huge
yes.
bowl? Yeah,
Hmm.
with and we put a straw in it. I'd like all different kinds of dumplings, just like that. It'd be. I remember the Carl was asking me, "What do you want for your the reception?" And I was just like dumplings. They're like, "Oh, like let's have a dumpling tasting," or it's
Oh my
just
gosh,
dumplings.
that's
Nice.
fun.
So which they did have dumplings, but I don't think they did all dumplings. I think they probably thought that wasn't the smartest thing to have just one kind of food. But like all dumplings and all different kinds of boba tea. And boba tea is
Mm.
uh also this with the memories because me and Hazel go out for boba tea all the time. Like that's like a like if I get it without her or she gets it without me, we get like really mad at each other. Like you went without me. You went with so it'd be boba tea and coconut cake. So the boba tea and the coconut cake have a lot of like
Yeah.
memory and happiness to it. The dumplings also have memory and happiness, but also just because I love to eat dumplings.
Oh,
All
Allison,
right,
what would your
Allison, how about
last?
you?
I'm like literally over here writing down, oh, this, what about this? Like trying to decide. So, I mean, it's funny because mine are so rooted in specific places and like
Hmm.
places we've been to a lot, I think, to some extent. Like my first thought before I brought up coconut cake, and then now I'm like, well, coconut cake has to be part of it. But is Tandem Coffee and Bakery in Portland, Maine. All year I look forward to their loaded biscuit and
Mm.
their malt iced coffee. And so if I had to go with what could you order right now that would be accessible, I'd be like, we're gonna sit by the water. We're gonna eat our delicious tandem baked goods. But if I'm gonna do like a meal, I would probably it might be lobster. I really am a
Mm.
fan of
Yeah.
lobster, like do a whole lobster. I also like that there's a project involved. I enjoy that part of it. But also pasta. We used to get
Mm.
takeout from this place in Huron Ave in Cambridge called the Village Kitchen, and they had a gnocchi with pesto that we loved, and then this dish called bon gustaio that was like penne with a pink sauce, like a vodka sauce, and chicken and broccoli that was just perfect every time. So I might be like lobster, and then the bon gustaio and the coconut cake, and maybe some like homemade bread in there, like homemade sourdough.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, yeah, I think that would be
Okay.
good. I'd be
Now I'm
happy.
hungry.
I'd be happy.
I know, now I'm really hungry.
It
Well,
would also
before
be
we,
very rich. This would be a very rich
well,
meal.
It's
that's
our last meal. Who
why.
cares?
But if I'm gonna die and I don't have to suffer
Anyway,
any stomach pain, then we're good.
yes.
Yeah, like I'm not worried about like my arteries clogging.
Yeah,
No,
great,
no.
great. I'm all in.
Um, all right. So, and we didn't officially introduce Allison, but special guest Alison Morris, children's literature specialist. Tell us what we could be reading now.
Okay, so I am gonna deviate a little bit from just the list of books, and I'm gonna kind of bring you guys on vacation with me again,
Oh,
because
fun.
we just did another trip where I was like, books, 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 sort of like factored into it, although in a different way this time. But first, I just have to give a shout out because I haven't seen y'all on screen or in person since ALA,
Hmm.
and I want to talk about something that is really mundane, but that we in the book world really care about. And I just want to give a shout out to Barefoot for having what I think was the best
Ooh,
tote bag
Oh
that's
at
so
yeah, I
beautiful.
saw that.
ALA.
I was really jealous of your tote bag.
Yeah. So for the people listening at home who are not watching the video, Barefoot did a tote bag this year that has the cover art from the book Rise Up: Powerful Protests in American History, written by Rachel C. Katz and illustrated by Sophie Bass. To get one, you had to be one of the first 30 people in line for one of their signings. They were very strict about it. I did do that. I queued to get this tote bag, just to be clear. I did not pull, there was no special favor granted to me. But it says books can change the world. It is
Yes.
beautiful. I think anyone listening to this podcast probably believes and knows books can change the world. So I just feel like I'm a
Are
walking
they selling that
advertisement.
tote bag? Are they selling that tote bag anywhere?
Ooh, good question. I don't actually know the answer.
They
Probably
should.
You're,
not because it's like merch. That would be considered
yeah.
merch.
They should let the illustrator have that design then and let her like
Hmm.
sell it on her website.
It's a good question, though. It's possible that that might be something they'd be
Right.
considering
Yeah.
doing because they
Because
do
that's a
have
beautiful
some other.
I would like that tote bag. It's beautiful.
It's beautiful. Yeah. So anyway, yes. Barefoot, congratulations. You win my prize for Best Tote Bag of ALA 2025.
We
Uh,
should do that like next time you guys go to ALA because I don't think I'll be going to the next one. You should like the best swag. I want to hear about the best swag of
yeah.
ALA.
Okay. I actually, when I was years ago when I was blogging for Publishers Weekly, I said to Diane Roback, I really want to do a roundup of like best tote bags.
Yes.
And we
That's
talked about it
fun.
and then it just didn't happen. But now I'm like, I do feel like it's a thing that should exist. So yes, maybe
Yes.
I will take this on as a new thing.
Yes.
So yeah, and also while I'm doing that, I just want to give a shout out to Barefoot because they have been doing incredible work at expanding the array of children's books, picture books specifically, available in a wide, wide variety of world languages. And
Mm.
this is a long time coming. So there's really three publishers who've been doing it on a large scale: Barefoot, Child's Play, and I want to also say Starbright Books, who led this charge and has been doing it for quite a long time. Those are really the three. And they've been doing it really by sort of aggregating an audience, a market for these in the literacy market. Like they're very directly talking with groups who need a large quantity of books and they're trying to bring their pricing down to make it accessible for them to get board books and picture books in a variety of languages. And I just have to say, it's awesome. And we've needed it and we still need it. And we're going to continue to need it even more so. So yay, Barefoot, Child's Play, Starbright, and anyone else who's going to follow them down that path because it's great work. Great work. Okay, so that was ALA. Now I'm gonna take you with me to the UK for a few days, sort of. Um, Gareth and I, right after ALA, I drove to Pennsylvania, spent 2 days with my dad, who is in dementia care, came home for 2 days, and then we flew to the UK for 10 days. So I haven't really been home much at all. Apologies to anyone who sent me emails and not heard back. I am like still not sure if I'm coming or going. But yes, we did a trip that was a mix. It was mostly vacation, but it was also some work for Gareth in particular. And our first stop was London, where we stayed with for a few days with friends who live on a houseboat in the Thames, which let me tell you
Wow.
is the way to do it. If you can make that work, it's incredible. But I just want to say we stayed with them last year, and at the time I told them they had to read The Great Stink, How Joseph Bazalgette Solved London's Poop Pollution Problem by Colleen Peff and Nancy Carpenter. This is now my third time mentioning it on this podcast, but it is so good that I have to bring it up again. And you cannot be on the Thames without thinking about this picture book, have you, if you've read it. And they reported that they got it and that it's been a huge hit with the children and the grandchildren in this family. So, shout out again to Colleen and Nancy for a picture book that I will just keep talking about forever. But in particular, anytime I'm anywhere near London. So yeah, The Great Stink, if you haven't read it, this is my reminder. You really need to read the book because it's great. So a year ago when we visited these friends and I made their recommendation, we also went to Oxford. And while we were there, we visited Blackwell's, which is a venerable institution, and independent bookstore in Oxford. And they have two physical stores, like almost right across from each other. One of them is a sci-fi manga and game store. And we were in that store last year. We were struck by the fact that they had the Odyssey and the Iliad like face out on the shelf, which in the UK, Gareth doesn't get to see very often. And we wound up meeting someone in the store who was like, oh, they sell super well for us. They got the manager, Dan, who is awesome. Dan knew everything about comics and said to Gareth, yeah, your books do great for us. Like, so excited to meet you. And we're chatting more. And I said to Dan, hey, do you know about this book coming out a year from now that is Myth Makers? This is John Hendricks's book, Myth Makers, The Remarkable Fellowship of C.S. Lewis and J.R.R. Tolkien. And I was like, you need to know about it because Oxford is where the two of them met. Of course, I didn't have to tell him that. He knew that. They're a big deal in Oxford and at Oxford specifically. And I knew he'd want to know about it. And he was like, oh, I'm putting it in the system right now to be sure we order copies, which was great. So 2 months later, I was at ALA in San Diego last year, and I saw John Hendricks. I said, hey, Gareth and I were just at this bookstore, and I told them that your book is coming out. And then I was like, you know, it'd be awesome. Maybe you and Gareth could like do an event there together sometime. And he was like, yeah, that'd be cool. I actually have to be in the UK for a conference next year. And I was like, let's do this thing. So boom, we put together an event.
Wow.
Gareth and John Hendricks did a presentation together at Oxford, or not at Oxford, but at Blackwell's, right at the doorstep to Oxford. And John talked about the Mythmakers, and Gareth talked about Beowulf some because that is Tolkien's favorite book, but also more about the process of how he did the Odyssey of the Iliad. And it was great. Their rapport was great. The audience turnout was really good, and people totally loved it. So thumbs up to me having crazy ideas when we're in other places and then us, putting events together. It was a really fun event. And yeah, and shout out to John, who was just a delight. And we got to then walk around Oxford and like hold his book up in front of meaningful Oxford related sites. And also shout out to him because we were talking about in this presentation, he talks about his real motivation was to give kids who hate being assigned Beowulf some reason to feel excited about it. And this is sort of his linkage between those things. So anyway, for anyone who's a Lewis fan or a Tolkien fan or who is frustrated to be assigned Beowulf, here is the Mythmakers. Highly recommend. Yeah, so that was great. And also shout out to Rebecca Sherman, who is Grace's agent and John Hendricks' agent, because she was part of all these conversations. But we were in the UK at the same time, but not in the same parts of the country. So we missed closing that one loop, but it was great. Okay, so that was great. We had a great time in Oxford, and then we went on there. We traveled to multiple historical sites where Gareth was doing some book research, and then we wound our way down to Cornwall, which I was very excited to go to these lovely towns in Cornwall, which brings me to my non-recommendation.
Oh.
So, for reasons that will become clear. So, knowing we were going to Cornwall, I had decided on the recommendation of a couple other adult friends that I would take the grown-up book of The Salt Path by Raynor Winn on our trip. Have you guys heard about this book recently?
No.
Okay. Everyone in the UK has, because this is a big deal right now.
Hmm.
So this book came out a couple years ago. It is about this couple who is an international
Oh,
best-selling
I
memoir.
have
Okay.
because it's
Yes,
controversial. Okay,
it is
go
now.
on.
So
Yes.
this couple, Raynor Wynn and her husband, who goes by Moth, lost everything in a bad business deal. They were taken advantage of by a friend, according to the book. Moth was diagnosed with a terminal illness, and then they found sort of purpose and turned their lives around by walking the 600 miles of the Southwest Coast Path, which winds its way around the UK. So unlike the US, where there's a lot of land that goes up to the coast that's private, in the UK, that's not the way. Anyone can walk these paths, right? So anyway, I start reading it on the plane on the way over, super into it. Although I had some questions in the back of my brain. We land in London and this scandal breaks right around that time. I like open up my phone and the Observer has written this whole story about people accusing Raynor Wynn of being a woman named Sally Walker, who in fact stole 68,000 pounds from her employer and then borrowed money from a family member and defaulted on that loan, which is how she and her husband lost their house, which is not the way it's represented in the book. And anyway, what that's turned into is a whole discussion in the UK, especially about what is the obligation of publishers to do fact checking. And also in some of the articles I read, the differences between in like how that basically the US is ahead of the UK in terms of how much fact checking is done here. It was all just very interesting. It was interesting to read the articles, but I just decided I'm not going to keep reading this book right now
Yeah.
because I don't feel great about it because they're pretty serious claims that are being raised. There's also questions about whether or not her husband's terminal illness is accurately portrayed, like if
Yeah.
they're blowing anyway, whatever. We don't know. There's a lot we don't know. But in the meantime, maybe don't read The Salt Path or see the movie that just came out.
Oh my gosh.
Because this all blew up after this major feature film also landed. So anyway, in the UK it was
Everywhere.
everywhere.
Yeah.
But I haven't seen much coverage of it here. So
We
Alvina,
got a
did it
lot of
come up
other
at
things
work?
going on here.
It didn't
I
come up at
know.
work, but it was definitely in Publisher's Lunch, I think
Yeah.
is where I
Okay.
saw it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I mean, if it happened here, everybody
Ooh,
would be talking about it here. But
right.
anyway. Um, okay. Anyway, so before we left to go to the UK, I had thought about all these authors and illustrators I would want to reach out to who are sort of in the regions we were going through. And then I had to come to my senses and be like, there's just not time on this trip. We could either sightsee or we can visit. But so I limited myself to one person and I reached out to Bryony May Smith. And if you don't know Bryony's books, please go look them up because they're just great. They are beautiful picture books. She's an incredibly talented illustrator. And I've been a big fan for many years. So I reached out to our Angus Killick, who had edited the
Mhm.
US edition of a book by Bryony, and was like, do you think Bryony would want to have a cup of coffee or something? Is that going to be weird? And he checked in with her. She was like, absolutely. So we met up with Bryony and her agent, Charlie Bowden of Pickled Ink, and we had the best time hanging out with them. I'm now an even bigger Bryony fan and a Charlie fan. And we also, where we met, that's not too far from where Bryony lives, is Lyme Regis, which is the town that Mary Anning used to live in.
Hmm.
And I had identified it as a place I wanted to go because I totally wanted to like get my Mary Anning on and like be a paleontologist on the beach, which we did after we had this great breakfast. And I will also say that we owe a debt of gratitude to Charlie and Bryony because we ate at a beachside cafe. It's literally you set up beach chairs on the beach and you eat your bagel sandwiches. And Bryony very nicely held the orange umbrella over Gareth to keep the seagulls from stealing his sandwich because that is the thing you have to do. And we watched the seagulls steal someone else's sandwich, which was not great. So Bridie's next book coming out is Hogbert. It's coming out in November from Candlewick. And it is just the sweetest book about a baby hog who winds up far from his family, alone in the forest, and then he winds up on his sort of path trying to find his way back, meeting all these other baby animals heading through the forest also. It is super charming. It's just, I don't know, you just get lost in this wonderful environment she's created, these lush plants and this whole world and these adorable characters. And there's also these really fun nods to Grimm's fairy tales throughout the books. And also I forgot I have show and tell here. Her previous books, I don't have Margaret's Moon or Mermaid Moon in front of me, but Mermaid Moon I've talked about here. It's just this epic fantasy read aloud. And like the 8-year-old in me is just like completely in love with this book. I should say the 4 through 8-year-old in me is completely in love with this book. Margaret's Unicorn is another by Bryony. These were the two I was able to get at an independent bookstore right before we met up with her and had her sign.
Oh,
And this is about a girl who is out on the moor, and then this flock of all these unicorns flies by, fun fact, and they leave this baby unicorn. They don't know this baby unicorn is sort of left behind, and so she like nurtures it and cares for it until they come back again to get it. And it's
Aw,
just, again, childhood fantasy right here. And then a practical present for Philip, a pheasant. And we met a lovely teacher in the visitor center at Charmouth Beach who was like, book about road safety. And we were like, yeah, a little bit. That's a little bit of that. Yeah. Anyway, just delightful.
so
So
cute.
check out Brian E. May Smith's books. Had we had the time, I also would have reached out to Richard Jones, who lives in Devon. Sorry, this was in Devon, not in Cornwall. Lyme Regis is in Devon. His newest book is Safe at Last, which pubbed in May, and it is just a wonderfully reassuring read aloud for preschoolers. And he's illustrated a lot of books, poetry books, and other picture books by folks that you guys might recognize. And then Emma Carlisle, whose newest picture book is Time Runs Like a River. And it's just this beautiful, lush meditation on nature and the time we're given on this planet. Richard Jones lives in Devon, I think near Exeter, and Emma Carlisle lives in Plymouth. So if any of you are planning a trip and like want to read books by people in the area, those are some of my recommendations. There's also an illustrator whose work I follow who lives in Cornwall. He does not do picture books at this stage, or he doesn't do books, but his illustrations are amazing and have this incredible sense of they just have really this great sense of place and space. And he's doing really interesting layered textures with all of the native flora and fauna he weaves into his illustrations. His name is Matt Johnson. So if you are a fan of I don't know, beautiful prints of the UK wilds, look up Matt Johnson on Instagram and follow him there. Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah, that's sort of the grand slam. I will say I want to give a shout out to Helen, who's a bookseller at the Edge of the World Bookshop in Penzance, because she totally knew Bryony's books when I asked if they had them. And then she also knew who Gareth was, which is, again,
Oh,
a little
wow.
unusual. And she's like, I read your books during the pandemic. They
Oh
were
my gosh,
terrific.
that's amazing.
Yeah,
Yay.
she is a frontline bookseller. She's worked in the store for 5 years. She's neither owner nor buyer, but she just like knew her stuff. Shout out to all you booksellers out there who
Yay,
are doing
booksellers.
amazing work in stores every day. So grateful for all of you. So yeah, thanks, Helen. Thanks, booksellers.
Well,
Um,
speaking of
yeah.
grateful,
I
now
know.
it's time
Yes.
for us to end, as we always do, with what we're grateful for. Um, well, I guess I can start this week. I am grateful for all of my friends, period, but also all of my friends who came out to this party, my belated birthday party that I had on Saturday. And I last year I had a theme of neon, and that was really fun. And so I'm like, oh, I want to do a fun theme. And I like bright colors, so I said, okay, come wearing bright colors and or florals. And not, some people forgot. And like Connie Shu, she responded, she's like, we'll come in our florals in the It Ends With Us theme, because that movie was all florals. And then she showed up wearing a black t-shirt. So she's like, oh my God, I forgot. But I feel like for those of you watching, Allison, you are very much on theme. You
I
would
know, I
have
didn't
fit
realize.
right in.
I'm wearing the Connie Shoe outfit.
Yes, Grace is wearing a black t-shirt. And we're kind of in florals
I'm
today.
Connie Chu's intentions, and Grace is just the way reality intervenes in our
Yes.
lives, right? It just happens.
Yes. But it
I
was
was
really,
thinking, you all have very interesting backgrounds. I
oh,
do not, but I'm making up for it with my shirt.
yes, it's beautiful. Anyway, so I'm
Thanks.
grateful for friends and friends who, when they remember, come in the theme of the party. Grace, what are you grateful for?
Gosh, I guess I'm really grateful for this like quiet time that I'm having with like just painting and being with my family. But you know what? I'm also really grateful, like this is kind of silly. Maybe because I'm having this really quiet time with my family and stuff, and I am enjoying it, but there's always this part of me that's like, oh, do people remember, like, are people like know that I exist? And like, so I'm also really grateful for like these once in a while, like just before we started recording, like somebody had just like posted a blog post about the book, like it's just like, ah, I love this book. It's like all these kind of random like people who have been reading the book and just like post on it on social media. Like it doesn't matter if they have like 5 followers or no followers. It's just kind of like, oh, people remember the book exists. So I'm really grateful for that too. So I'm grateful for the quiet time. I'm grateful for this time to kind of retreat, but I'm also really grateful for those people who are still reading my books even while I'm not pushing it.
Oh,
That's
that's
good.
great.
I will
Allison.
also say that's highly relatable to me as someone who doesn't have a job like with ownership. I mean, I'm doing some consulting, but it's still on a small basis right now as I'm figuring out what's next. And like, there are days where I'm like, have I disappeared? And ALA was great for that. It was like, oh no, look at all these people I
Yes.
know and they still know me. But Grace, I understand that feeling. There is something weird about this sort of isolation in the worlds we're in. And when you retreat, especially, you're choosing it. But sometimes you're like, am I actually being pushed out and nobody cares? Or they're,
Yes,
so
exactly.
yeah. So I'm glad you had those sort of reminders that no, that's not true. We all know you. We all love your books. People are still finding them. Yeah, I am grateful. This is sort of dovetails with what I was going to say. I am grateful for things that just feel normal right now because this is a time of chaos and things are not normal. So many things. But I will say that was my favorite thing about ALA this year is it just felt normal. It felt like everyone was like, this is what we do, and we're just gonna keep doing it. And like, yes, forces around us are making that harder, but like, it's what we do. And I was really grateful for that. And that was sort of the sense I had also when I was traveling. Also, not being in the United States was helpful.
Yeah.
Not being in DC is always helpful right now.
Hmm.
But yeah, normalcy. I'm grateful for those times when I can just kind of forget for a little bit with what's happening in the news, because we all need that for our own sanity's sake.
It is
Definitely.
true.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, all right. And that was the Chop Suey, Ages and Young Adult, Pen Names, and Last Meals episode. Thanks for joining us, and thanks to Alex at Paceywork Studio for editing this podcast. Please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts and tell a friend about it.
And tag us on social media using the hashtag BookFriendsForever, or send us a message via Instagram at BookFriendsForever_podcast, or via our website, BookFriendsForever.com. And please join our Patreon. Someday we will do something. I don't know. I might have extra stuff after my deluxe boxes. Maybe I'll make you a origami dragon. If you join, who knows? Anyway, the link is in the show notes.
I'm Alvina Ling. You can find me at Planet Alvina on TikTok and at Alvina Ling on Instagram, Blue Sky, and Threads. Allison, where can people find you?
I am at Kid Lit Girl on Instagram and theoretically Threads, though I'm never there right now. And yeah, so just look for me, Alison L. Morris or Kid Lit Girl. Either one of those will find me pretty much anywhere I am.
And I'm Grace Lynn. You can find me on Instagram at Pacey Lynn and Threads. And that's, oh yes, I'm Pacey Lynn on Threads too. And author Grace Lynn on Facebook and Blue Sky.
Have a great week.
And don't forget to read. Bye.
Bye.